we started, from day one, we had decided that we were going to do the best music or literary works or theater that we could lay hands on. And we did it with complete disregard to financial considerations. I mean, I think some of the things we did were almost suicidal, but we decided that the art was going to come first, and if we couldn't do that, then we didn't belong there. I mean, if we couldn't make that work.
Our only real overriding desire was that whatever we did, we wanted to at least do it as professionally as we could, or at least as sincerely as we possibly could, and legitimately. That when we did something that sounded a little bizarre, that it wasn't as a gimmick or as a new fad we were trying to create, but that we actually gave a damn about it.
I think that both of us feel that we have to do what's in our heart, and if you can't do that, if you can't work with that kind of spirit and feeling, then it's not worth working. So we did it, and we struggled, and we haven't made an awful lot of money, but I think that we were able to prove that you can do superior art and present it to the public and present it in a public forum and make it work.
There are very few places in the city where one can get away from the stereotypical atmosphere where performances are put on, where classical music has to be performed in the Mary Seton room, and poetry has to be performed in the library, and they can go out, they can drink beer, they can have their grandmother come down or their girlfriend and have a good time and do what they wanted to do and feel much more comfortable about it.
Even more than jazz, without a doubt, jazz is my favorite, and most of our success has been there. But one of the things that really warmed the cockles of my heart was doing classical music there, particularly chamber music. I find chamber music in concert halls, I fall asleep. But we were able to present that same music, which was written for small rooms with people eating and drinking in a more relaxed atmosphere. And we were able to do that in the club, and it worked, and I didn't fall asleep.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere has a lot to do with it, just the physical atmosphere. It's very cozy, very close. The spectators or listeners are never more than 40 or 50 feet away if they're in the back table. I mean, that's it. They can't be further away. They'd be on Main Street. So it has that intimacy. It has the right atmosphere. We make every attempt to make it a listening room in terms of keeping down the audience noise, taking the phone off the hook so that it doesn't ring while the musicians are playing, and especially in the middle of a bass solo.
That's the first thing they tell you. Is you got to learn how to tend bar when it's quiet. Waitresses had to learn. We had a bottle dump, over in the corner. They had to learn how to do that during a bass solo, and you just had to know how to make a drink without making any noise, without making the ice cubes jiggle, without dropping the glass, without the bottle going glug, 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 and whispering. Frequently we would have to not use the cash registers because they make a noise all themselves, which would cut across the room.
Neither of us have hesitated a minute to ask people to be quiet, and sometimes they get very offended when you do that. But our attitude was that there are numerous bars up and down Main Street, and if somebody wants to go and have a great time in a bar and make a lot of noise, there are all kinds of places, and we were happy to give them their admission fee back and tell them where the nearest bar is that they could have a good time. If they wanted to listen to music, they were welcome to stay.
Yeah.
And we made all kinds of concessions to make sure everybody could see, and we got the maximum amount of seating. I always felt sorry for a waitress at the Tralfamadore because it's more important that the customer be comfortable and everybody gets stretched out than the waitress would be able to get through their row of tables. Yeah, poor waitress would have to walk around the room to get to a table that was 2 feet away sometimes.
We're impeccably honest to the highest degree in terms of paying the artist, regardless of how many people show up, which, to my surprise, is something that is not universal. I don't understand that, but artists tend to get stiffed sometimes. And the people that go there are listeners, and they really go there to hear the music. If we didn't have music on a Friday night, we'd be lucky to have 25 people in the place. And the musicians realize that.
Club owners in this country in general have a pretty bad reputation, and a well-deserved one. Ed and I both, I think, have tried to remove all the hassles that musicians normally have when they play in a club, because after all, their responsibility is to play the music. And I think that the person that runs a club's responsibility is to provide the ambiance and the atmosphere and the equipment to allow that to happen. All the musician should have to do, or the artist should have to do, is deal with his art form, and shouldn't have to deal with other things.